When you make up your mind, everything can change. This is something that I learned a long time ago, and I'm going to tell you a story that explains exactly what I mean, because some of you watching this right now, you might be thinking to yourself, I've made up my mind, but nothing seems to change. But I want to tell you that a made-up mind is a dangerous mind. A made-up mind can barely be stopped. There isn't much that can stop you once you make up your mind. Once you make up your mind, it's only a matter of time until you hold it in your hands or you see it manifested in your reality. I want to tell you a story about the writing of my first book. I'm on my third book right now. My third book is coming out in July. But when I wrote my first book, I still remember I had nothing except a made-up mind. I had nothing. When I say nothing, I'll explain to you what I mean. I had nothing except a made-up mind. I decided that I want to be an author. I want to write a book. I didn't have the expertise. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have the know-how. I didn't have the resources, right? All I had was just this idea that I'm going to write a book. And so what I would do is I would imagine myself standing on platforms at conferences and having interviews and telling people about this book that I've written. I would imagine people introducing me as an author and a speaker, but I didn't have the book and I didn't know how I was going to do it. And when I say that I didn't have the resources, what I mean is I also didn't have a laptop to type the book in, something that simple. And so because I had made up my mind about writing this book and becoming an author, I wasn't going to wait until I can have a laptop. And this was during the pandemic of 2020 when the whole world was shut down and everybody was on lockdown. And so because I don't have the money, I don't have anybody that I can ask to buy me a laptop, I started asking some friends, do you have an old laptop? Do you have an old laptop? And in the beginning, no one had an old laptop for me to use. And so I started writing on paper. Right? I wrote down the title of my book, How Can I Make a Difference? Because that's the title that resonated with me. And so I started writing chapter 1. I started just writing on paper. I would go on Google just to Google, how is it that you go about writing a book? How do you start? And really, after doing all this research, it just came down to start writing. So I would just write on a piece of paper. I filled out one notebook, went on to another one, just continued writing. And then at one point I felt like this is not working anymore. And so I started typing on my phone, right? I just from paper, started typing this book on a note app, just started typing. I just knew I wanted to be an author. From there, I felt like the phone wasn't working. And so I went to a nearby internet cafe where you could pay a fee to use a laptop. And I started typing over there, would save it on my memory stick, send it to my email, continue writing, go back every single day as much as I could afford. And then eventually, a friend of mine said to me, I have an old laptop that you can use if you still need it. I said, I need it. He said, it's a bit slow. I said, I'll work it out. And so I got that laptop. I still remember it was a bit slow, but I worked it out. I made it work to the point where I ended up finishing the entire manuscript for this book on this old laptop that a friend of mine gave to me. And now I was standing at a point where I don't have the money to take this book to print, to have anybody proofread it, to do anything. I don't have the money to take the next step. I wasn't going to work through a publisher because I wasn't in the mood to have somebody else tell me if I'm good enough or not to be put in bookstores, if I'm good enough or not to go ahead with the printing of my book. I wasn't going to do that. And so I'm telling you the story so that you will realize the different seasons, the different levels that there were to it. When I made up my mind, there wasn't anything that was going to stop me. And I want you to understand that once you make up your mind, there's barely anything that can stop you. It doesn't matter what kind of adversity. It doesn't matter what kind of challenge. It doesn't matter what you don't have. As some of you are listening to this right now, you gave up on something because you thought, because I don't have the capital, I don't have the resources, I don't have what everyone else has, I don't have the connection, right? And when I tell you this, I'm telling you this so that you will see that God has a way of opening up this access to resources, to provision, the moment that you show your faithfulness with a little. No one can claim not to have anything at all. You cannot claim that you don't have anything. You have something. And if there's a dream in your heart, if there's a desire that God has placed in your heart, chances are you have something that's going to unlock the next level. Now, you might not have a laptop right now, but you start writing on a piece of paper. From the piece of paper, you start typing on a cell phone. From a cell phone, you start going to the nearby internet cafe and use other people's computers. From there, you get an old laptop that you start working on. And then from there, the next level perhaps is for you to go and talk to somebody who has published a book. But all of these things reveal themselves to you. Your vision becomes clearer and clearer. You start to see more and more of that provision and those resources as you take your steps. So I wonder where you are right now, where you are perhaps refusing to take a step because you don't see how this whole thing is going to end, because you don't have everything. And the truth is, oftentimes you won't have everything. You will just get what you need as you go along. But the question is, are you courageous enough? Are you brave enough to take a step and say, okay, let me take the step and then see what's going to happen. Let me take the next step and see what's going to happen. Sometimes you take the step without the knowledge of what's going to happen. Let me tell you how the story ends with my first book. And as I had written this entire manuscript and I was sitting with this manuscript, I don't know if it's good, I don't know if it's bad. So I start sending it to some friends to get some feedback. And it was at that point that somebody called me and said, I've had your name in my heart for a couple of weeks now and I can't shake it off. I don't know what it is that you might need from me, but I feel like you might need something. Perhaps you just need to talk, or maybe you need resources, but whatever you need, I'm here. God wants me to be here for you however I can be. And so I told them the story. I said, listen, I've been writing this book and this is where I am right now. This is where I'm stuck. And they were willing to say, let's figure out how I can help you print the first 50 copies. Help me through the entire process. I printed the first 50 copies and now I have these copies and I don't know who I'm going to sell it to. It was at that point, as I was looking at these 50 copies, that I hadn't sold a single copy of, but I was happy with it. It was at that point that after years of putting out videos on TikTok, I wake up one day and a video blows up. Everyone is talking about it. People are tagging me and telling me everyone is talking about you. And just like that, in a day, I sell the first 50. And then we keep going on and on and on and on and on till we get to the first 1,000, the first 2,000, the first 2,000. I'm telling you this so that you will understand that if you can make up your mind, nothing will be able to stop you. The only reason why you have excuses is because you haven't made up your mind. And you think you've made up your mind, but what you call a made up mind is simply just wishful thinking. It's a wish on a shooting star, and you're hoping that things will work out. Right? You haven't been able to go forward. You haven't been able to do whatever it is that you say you're going to do simply because you just kind of want it. You dabble in and out of it. You haven't made up your mind about it. I have not met a person who made up their minds about something and did not materialize it. And so my question to you is, can God really trust you with the next thing? Can God really trust you with the next level of provision? Have you proven yourself? Have you proven that you have what it takes? Have you proven your resourcefulness? That God, if all I have is a pen, I'll use a pen. I don't care that I don't have a laptop. If I have a pen, I'll use a pen. If I have a phone, I'll use a phone. When I have a laptop, I'll use a laptop. And I'll just keep on going. So that's the question to you. Have you made up your mind?
When you change your thoughts, you change your life. This is Thoughts That Count with Poloko.